If you coach long enough and have been around the block of this industry, you will eventually have a moment that is deeply uncomfortable and unpopular to admit, but I'm going to name it. You realize that you've been having the same freaking conversation with the same client for months, maybe even longer. And at that moment, you realize that the work itself has become a part of the client's loop. The details shift slightly each week. The situation evolves, but underneath, the pattern is unmistakable. Avoidance. The same hesitation, the same edge. They walk up to the line, but they never quite cross. The same story returning with just slightly different costumes of justification. And at first you'll assume, man, we're getting close to the breakthrough. We're getting close. And if you're patient, you might tell yourself that pretty long time. Your client is thoughtful. They are engaged in the work. They show up consistently, so there's no problem. They care deeply about solving the problem. And you explore the situation together. And then you explore the situation together again. And then you explore it again. And the pattern becomes clearer. The insights will deepen. And each session, it seems to bring another layer of understanding for them to sit with or process. But yet, transformation should be visible, When you look at your client's life outside of the coaching room, in this situation, nothing is actually changing. And if you coach ambitious, hungry, serious, visionary people, you and them will eventually face a realization that most coaching programs never talk about. It's not working. Because some clients are not stuck because they lack insight. They are looping or they're stuck because the coaching itself has quietly become a part of the loop. An accidental enabling. Okay, before we go further, there is a useful tool that can help you see these patterns more clearly, both in yourself and then also the people that you coach. I want you to have it. When pressure rises, most nervous systems organize around a particular orientation. This is not a personality test. Some move towards decisive force, others towards analysis or adaptation, or even relational sensitivity. We describe these as the warrior, the sage, the shapeshifter, and the asset. There's a short quiz you can take, really as an assessment, to see which orientation tends to run your system, especially when stakes increase or change is on the horizon. Many coaches will find that once they can recognize their own orientation, the dynamics that they see in their clients suddenly become a lot easier to read. Okay, so now think about one of your clients. Got one in mind? They come to you with a real problem, something meaningful, a decision that they keep postponing, or a situation that they keep tolerating, even though it's quietly draining their life. In the first session, you unpack it. You explore the pattern together, you use active listening, all the things, and they gain insight, actually. The story becomes clearer. They see things in a way that they hadn't before. They understand what's happening and why it keeps happening. And they're excited. Things feel lighter. But then the next session arrives, and the decision still hasn't happened. But now your client has better language for that pattern. And another week passes. The pattern is still there. But now the explanations are getting even more sophisticated. They can describe the emotional dynamics, the history behind the situation, the internal conflict or identities around how they feel about the decision. And if you're not careful as a coach, something subtle can happen at this point. The coaching session becomes the place where the client comes to process the pressure of the problem without ever confronting the moment that would change it. You've become the accidental enabler. And so They leave the conversation feeling thoughtful, understood, and temporarily relieved, like a Band-Aid. But then the pattern continues exactly as before. And so from the outside, it looks like thoughtful reflection. Inside, it's protection. Because your client is not avoiding the action because they do not understand it well enough. They're avoiding it because they're avoiding it. And that's usually because their nervous system predicts a level of pressure that they have never trained themselves to carry. Think about the kinds of moments that your clients keep circling. The entrepreneur who knows that they need to raise their prices or hold a standard for who they work with, but they keep finding reasons to make exceptions for this one person or wait one more month. The leader who understands perfectly that a particular team member is damaging the team, but continues to soften or tolerate the situation. The creative professional who talks about being bold with their messaging, creating a bigger impact, telling the truth, and showing their work publicly, but yet they somehow never press publish, or when they do showcase stuff, it's kind of fluff. In each case, their mind, honestly, even their spirit, already knows the answer. But the organism, the animal body underneath, is negotiating the cost of executing it. Every meaningful action carries pressure. There is no way around that. It risks your reputation, your sense of belonging, your stability, even your identity. And the mind can recognize the correct game moves instantly. It's not hard. The nervous system, though, must determine whether it feels equipped, capable of carrying the moment without fallout. If the system predicts that the pressure is going to overwhelm you, it will search for ways, create ways, even clever ways, to maintain homeostasis, stability. And sometimes that strategy looks like straight up avoidance. Sometimes it looks like endless preparation. And sometimes it looks like beautifully articulated insight that never quite makes it into application and action. At that point, your role as a coach quietly changes. Your client does not need another explanation or exploration of the pattern. Your client needs the capacity to carry the moment that will break it. That is your job. This is so the founder can learn to stay centered while saying the policy, holding the standard, saying the number that scares them. The leader can stay structurally steady while delivering a hard truth. A visionary must learn to carry the exposure of a bigger room that comes from being seen. Until the organism develops the ability to hold that pressure, the loop will continue. So no matter how insightful a conversation becomes, nothing will really change. This is why we place so much emphasis on somatic development, being on the mat, training for realsies inside the prestige. Through immersive events that expand your somatic range and coaching circles where we train presence and decision-making under real pressure, members develop the biological capacity required to move through the moments that used to keep them stuck inside our Applied Somatics Academy. Now, you can do this in dusty academic ways, or you can do it in real-time application with us. It's a different flavor. If that kind of work resonates with you, you're welcome to explore it and join us for a season, because honestly, I want this liberation for you. Once you experience the power for yourself, you develop the capacity to carry the pressure of the moment. That loop that once felt endless now finally has a place to break, and you're free. I hope you geek out on this the way that I do and that you're enjoying these videos. Please do like and subscribe if so, and I will see you next time.